How would I go about destroying a family if I were the devil? This is really important for you to hear, whether you're a man or a woman, if you have a family to protect, or if you are planning on having a family. It is extremely important to hear so that you know how to protect your family for real. And if by the end of this you conclude that I am full of it and that I am nowhere close to having a point, that's completely up to you. But do me the favor of at least listening up until the end and hearing if what I am about to say makes sense to you or not. If you have no idea who I am, my name is Claudiu Manea. I'm a psychologist and a therapist, and for the past 10 years I've been helping families grow stronger together and function better together. And this is exactly the point of today's talk, of what happens if we have a strong family who functions well together, and what if I were the devil and I would attempt to destroy such a family? How would I go about doing that? If you're not really versed in all of the spiritual stuff, you may be tempted to think that as the devil, I would choose the weakest member of the family, and I would exploit that weakness or those weaknesses by tempting the individual, by trying to lead them further down the path of self-destruction. But you would be wrong, because the better strategy is for me to target the strongest member of that family. Now, keep in mind that the devil doesn't doesn't see into people's hearts. So it is about what he perceives to be the strongest member of the family. That's not necessarily true. But as the devil, I would target what I think is the most powerful or the strongest member of that family. Because if I can destabilize that member, if I can corrupt that person, then all of the other members of the family will fall down like domino pieces. And how would I go about doing that? Because I am the devil, I am a liar and a deceiver. And my main strategy is to take something and try to turn it into something else. And if we're talking about the strongest member of a family, we are probably talking about some virtues that that person has. And as the devil, I would attempt to take those virtues and turn them into something else. Now, the quickest and the easiest way to turn a virtue into a sin is to attempt to turn that virtue into the sin of pride. Because virtue is really easy to turn into pride if you follow a certain series of steps. And those series of steps are as follows. First, I would attempt to get as close as possible to that person and to gain their trust. And I would do that by constantly complimenting the person, constantly being in awe of that person, so that first of all they are blinded to whatever it is that I'm doing aside from complimenting them, and so that I am building them up, and I'm building them up, building them up, building them up. And because we tend to like people who like us back, that would allow me, first of all, to get closer to that person, to gain their trust, and it would allow space for me to operate into, like I said, building up their self-image and their self-esteem. Now, the reason why I would do that is because I need them to think better and better about themselves up to the point where their virtue starts turning into pride. That's the reason. I am attempting to turn virtue into pride, and I'm doing that by constantly complimenting them, admiring them, looking up to them, being in awe of them. And if that person isn't fully stable spiritually, psychologically as well, but spiritually mostly, they might succumb to the temptation of taking pride in their virtue. And that's when everything changes. Because if they start taking pride in their virtue, then I will continue to build them up, but I will also have a chance to make them look at their spouse in a more and more negative way. Because as I am building them up, I am pushing their spouse down. Okay, so I would say something like, oh, look, you are the person that I'm targeting. You are very restrained in your life, in your spending and all of that. Whereas your spouse, your husband or your wife, whoever that is the opposite of you. He or she is squandering away what you work so hard to accumulate. And whereas you are very self-disciplined in your spending and all of that, he or she is the opposite of you. And my target would eventually start to look at their spouse as not a partner in their journey through life, but more of an obstacle, more of a hindrance. Their spouse starts more and more becoming a problem for them, up until the point where I would seize the opportunity to start giving more direct instructions, such as, look, you are this amazing person and your spouse is nowhere near you. So on the one hand, I am letting them know that their spouse doesn't really deserve them because they are this great person and their spouse is nowhere near that, so he or she is nothing. And on the other hand, I am building up the narrative in that person's mind that in him or her being with their spouse, they are unjustly treated. It's like their life in that marriage and in that family is an injustice that happens to them because there's no way to compare. There's no comparison between them and their spouse. And by doing that, I am seeding the idea of discontentment in them. And as soon as discontentment takes a hold of them, then as the devil, I can just lay back and maybe eventually just fan the flames of their discontentment, because everything will take care of itself from that point on. Discontentment will start breeding and growing inside that person, which will inform their behavior in their marriage and in their family, which will in turn provoke certain reactions from their spouse or from their children and all of that, which will lead to conflicts, which will become more and more frequent and more serious up until the day in which one of them, it doesn't matter who, has had enough and that family is destroyed. That's how I would do it, and that's how the devil actually does it a lot of times. So, why this is extremely important for you to understand? Two reasons. The first reason is that the devil hates happy families. The devil hates families that stay together and that function well together. And that is because the devil hates children. And a child grows, develops, and matures the best when he is raised in a family that is strong and that is functional. So whenever the devil gets a chance to destroy such a family, he will take the opportunity, because it is among the things that he hates the most. The other thing that he might hate more is people's faith in God, in Jesus Christ, and so on. But aside from the faith, which yes, we know that the devil hates mostly families and children. So if you have a strong family or are wanting to have a strong family, may be advised that this puts a target on your family, because it is something that is despised by the devil, and he will try to break up such a family. The second reason is that you need to that you need to protect your family on all three levels of reality, because just as our individual lives take place on the three levels, the material, the psychological, and the spiritual level, so does the life and the functioning of your family. And the way that you protect your family altogether is not by focusing on just one side of things, on just the material side of things, for instance. It is by taking into account all three and becoming aware of the risk and the threats that might come from all three of these levels. So that's what I had for you today. If you found it interesting, please don't forget to hit subscribe and ring the notification bell so that you get notified whenever I post something new. Whether I'll see you on the next one or not, thank you very much for taking the time to listen to this and for making it up until the end. And I hope you have a great day moving forward. Take care. Bye.